Hey guys, what's up once again? It is Wednesday, August 10th, and we're going to be looking at some cash game cornerstones here at Slurve. I'm Steve, and I've got some of my favorite cash plays for the day. Boy, yesterday was a frustrating day, huh? Unless you played Scherzer and maybe Mats, then maybe you had a really nice day. It was a great day for you, but if you were on Maeda, like a whole bunch of people, including myself, were, that didn't go so well. So let's pick some guys to go better tonight. The hitters went well, I will say, that I picked yesterday. But anyway, going on from that. Catcher is predictably gross, although there's a few cheap options over at FanDuel that I like. So some FanDuel specific options I really like. Stephen Vogt there for 2.6. He's 3.8 on DK, so he's not totally out of consideration, but definitely preferred. He gets Giovanni Gallardo, so it's a nice matchup for him. Not as nice, though, as Jonathan Lucroy against Jorge De La Rosa outside of Coors. He's still 4.7 on DK, so I just don't think that you can fit him in your cash lineup without sacrificing too much elsewhere. He's 3.5 on FanDuel, though, so still a pay-up option, but one that's more affordable. And then kind of an affordable option on both sites that I like a lot is Travis d'Arnaud. I almost said Chase for a second. Having his brother in the league is confusing. No, Travis d'Arnaud against Robbie Ray, who's actually been pretty darn good, and his numbers against righties are improving. I certainly don't love the play, but it's 2.6 on DK, 2.3 on FanDuel. He's usually batting around 6th in the lineup, which is pretty high for a catcher. I definitely don't mind it, and right now he's my cash play in mind for DK. Once again, I like David Ortiz for my first base pay-up option. Eovaldi throws really hard, but doesn't strike out all that many people, and he's definitely more vulnerable from the left side of the plate. It's a nice stadium for him to hit in, and 5.3 on DK, you're paying way up. 4.5 on FanDuel, you're still paying up. Maybe not quite as much relatively, but there's not that many options that I really like for much cheaper, although if you do want to go with a cheaper option, I do like Matt Adams against Desclafani, 3.1 on DK, 2.9 on FanDuel. It's a pretty nice matchup for him, but sometimes he does get pinch hit for, and he may not be in the lineup. I don't know. They like to mess with that. Just because I so rarely get to give a DK-only play that's just too cheap there. Goldie is only 4K on DK. It's also 4K on FanDuel, but that's relatively a good bit more. Bartolo Colon is not the easiest matchup ever, but it's not the toughest either. He has not done well against Colon in the past, but it's a tiny sample, 0 for 3. I definitely would pay 4K to see what Goldie can do against him today. Well, I wish I'd been on him yesterday, although my model kind of was on him and I just didn't really go for it. And that's Forsythe against Happ today. Yesterday, he, of course, in his first at-bat went and hit a home run against Estrada, so that was pretty upsetting. But, hey, hopefully he can do the same today against Happ. It really is a better matchup for him. It was righty-righty yesterday. He's got a lefty-righty matchup today. Happ is probably a bit better than Estrada, so it's not the most ideal of matchups. But 4.4 on DK, 3.4 on FanDuel. He leads off. It's not terrible. But there's also Pedroia. The Red Sox total not that high today. They've kind of been a little cool lately. But he's again going up against Eovaldi. 4.0 on DK and 3.3 on FanDuel, both of which are like pretty cheap prices for him. So I definitely don't mind getting some Dustin Pedroia in at second base. So we've got a Texas-Colorado game, but it's not in Coors. I mean, Texas is a fine hitting park, too. The Rangers have a total of 6.2 last I looked, which is pretty damn high for a non-Coors game. It's Jorge De La Rosa pitching for the Rockies, which, is not really... it's not a good thing, especially outside of Coors. He's better at Coors for whatever reason. So I really like Adrian Beltre going up against the mediocre at best lefty for 4.2 on DK, 3.2 on FanDuel. Interesting, a little bit more expensive on DK than when he was in Coors just a couple days ago. Moving on, Bregman against Alex Bregman, that's his name. I remember his first name for a second. Against Irvin Santana. He's kind of the cheap option on the table, especially on FanDuel. He's 3.1 on DK, 2.5 on FanDuel. That's near the top of the order. Houston seemed to finally wake up a little bit yesterday, so hopefully if Bregman's there, he can take advantage of that too. And then on FanDuel, really only Jake Lamb is just too good a value. He's 3.4 there. I said Bartolo wasn't that great a matchup, but I meant for right-handed hitters. He's much, much better for a matchup for left-handed hitters, and Lamb just absolutely destroys right-handed pitching. So at 3.4 on FanDuel, that's pretty much a lock for me, I think. On DK, he's 5.0, so I just don't see how you fit him in a cash lineup without sacrificing too much. So I mentioned Houston woke up yesterday, and it did so partially in the form of a chalky Carlos Correa going off in a less-than-ideal matchup for him, which was annoying. But hopefully he can keep some of that going today. He does have a 209 ISO versus right-handed pitching. It's really more his thing, more of a reverse splits hitter against Santana. He's 4.1 on DK, so still fairly discounted for who he is. 3.6 on FanDuel. I like his price on both sites. Although on DK, I think it's also worth considering Zach Cozart. He has a 244 ISO against left-handed pitching. Gets Jaime today, who was very good in his last start, but as we all probably know, if you've played Jaime more than once, he's probably burned you. He can blow up pretty bad. For 3.8 on DK, a little bit of a discount there. 3.6 on FanDuel. So I'd take Correa. Forget about Cozart in that situation. And then for a real FanDuel bargain, should you need it, I still like Orlando Arcia against Joel De La Cruz, who I feel like did a lot better than I wanted him to a few days ago. But regardless, he's not a particularly good pitcher by any stretch of the imagination. But Arcia is 3.6 on DK. I'm not so much interested there. I'd pay up a little bit for Cozart, but he's 2.7 on FanDuel, so he's a nice ultra bargain play. All right, so let's get some more of these Texas guys in here, and the outfield is a good place for that. And kind of each site is giving us one at more of a discount. On DK, you get Ian Desmond, who is probably my preferred of the two. I don't know. It's in the middle. Against Jorge De La Rosa for 4.4 on, DK, and 3.8 on FanDuel. So, he's more on DK, even relatively. But you can get Carlos Beltran or a big discount on FanDuel. He's only 3.3 there. He's 4.9 on DK, so 500 more than Desmond on DK. I would probably just pick based on that or whatever fits, or I don't mind both. I think there's probably a pretty good game in store for these guys. Make sure you check out weather, because I know weather in Texas is often a problem, and I haven't actually looked yet today. So we definitely want to make sure that that's okay. Here's a recommendation that surprised me a little when it came up, was Mikey Matuk, and I'm probably saying his name wrong, but whatever, the guy on Tampa Bay projected to bat fifth against Hap today. He's 2.1 on DK, 2.1 on FanDuel. That's his best credential probably, but honestly, he's not a bad hitter. He's a guy that I'll always remember in DFS, because as a relative newbie to MLB DFS, I played him on Fantasy Aces because he was dirt cheap there, and he popped up batting like second in the order when they called him up for a spot start, and he got me like 10 points. So which with Fantasy Aces is like old FanDuel scoring, so that's like a lot of points. So he always has a special place there for me. Not that you care at all. But, despite the matchup with Hap, for that price, batting at a reasonable spot in the order, I do not mind taking it as a salary relief thing. It's just so much other stuff is expensive. And despite the up and downness of the Cardinals lately, I seem to roster the wrong one every day. I like Brandon Moss, so I guess you should play Piscotti against Desclafani, which is not an ideal matchup, but not a terrible one either, and he's had some success in the past. 4.4 on DK, 3.6 on FanDuel, so decent prices on both sites there. And then I'm really hoping that they bump him back up into the order where he normally is instead of down at 7th today, because I want to play Michael Saunders. I didn't play him yesterday when they bumped him all the way down, and I don't think he had a particularly good game. But he's got another lefty today in Blake Snell, who really struggles with lefties. He gives up a lot more hard contact to lefties than he does to righties. I think it's like a matchup made in reverse splits heaven, because they're both kind of reverse splits lefties. So I'm interested to see that. 3.5 on DK is a little bit nicer a price than 3.4 on FanDuel. I don't really mind him either place. I just hope he gets a little bit better spot in the batting order. Make sure you come on back by later to get some of the written content with a couple more plays from me and my updates and changes and all of that. And we're also having the expert chat at 5 p.m. Eastern today, so don't miss that. That's when all of the best discussion happens, and you can ask us your questions directly and get an answer, and we won't even be very sarcastic, at least not to you. We'll be sarcastic to each other all day, but we'll be very nice to you, I promise. Good luck today, guys.